I did not think this was happening. I did not think this was coming. I got a lot to unpack. We've got a lot to unpack. We're going to be welcoming none other than Coach Don Patterson, who, of course, is a play caller himself by trade and was a part of the Iowa program for many years under the leadership of Coach Hayden Fry. He'll be joining us here shortly. He is en route home from Kinnick Stadium, in a very sad Kinnick Stadium, following a 54-yard game-winning kick from Iowa State's kicker. So here we are, 20-19. Iowa blowing a 13-0 lead in the first half. Had a 13-0 lead at halftime and got outscored. Do the math. What would that be? 20-6 in the second half. Second game of the season. I am at a place now, and we got a lot of people who are wanting to chat, and I get it. But I'm at a place right now where I could easily go off. Okay, I could easily just start ripping, and I am going to try my best not to do that. I don't think it's the time for that, but it's possible for me to be provoked. Not in a bad way, but just as it relates to criticism. So I'm going to let the callers kind of fuel this. We're going to get to the ins and outs of this game. I've got so many notes to run through, and then, of course, the expertise. What makes this show special and unique is the expertise of somebody who coached the game, especially on offense, and as a head coach for as long as Coach Don Patterson did. And we'll get to Coach Patterson here in a little bit. A couple of things before we talk Iowa's loss. Player of the game, without question, Caleb Johnson. Let me make a correction here. That way we don't have that. This is my Grammarly instinct here. Caleb Johnson, 25 carries, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was really good. I was really impressed with Caleb in the fourth quarter. That may surprise some people. I'll explain why in a little bit. He was really good. And I've been getting ripped all week because I've made statements about how I think Kamari might be their best all-around back. He's not playing it like it right now. All right. Caleb Johnson right now is their best option without question. Now, I think that could change from game to game. I think it's interesting we didn't see a second of Jazz Patterson today. That is a continued storyline. But the hot hand today was Caleb Johnson. Frankly, we didn't see many snaps for Le'Shawn Williams or Kamari Moulton in this game. And Kirk Ferentz chose to ride the hot hand. And I think Liddell Betts, Tim Lester, those guys all are involved, would be involved with personnel decision-making as it relates to the running back position. But Caleb Johnson is our RTI Threads player of the game. If you don't know about RTI Threads, you can check them out over at rtithreads.com and player apparel for a couple of current Iowa players, well, current Iowa stars, Aaron Graves, Jacob Gill, who I think has potential, didn't see the ball much today. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But also some stars of the future, Carson Shire, Zach Lutmer. Those guys are getting extensive look on special teams. And again, check out all the apparel over at rtithreads.com. You're supporting NIL, you're supporting the show, and you're supporting the website RTI Threads that supports so much as it relates to Hawkeye athletics and Hawkeye coverage across Hawkeye Nation. Let's get to the man of the hour, the guy we've been waiting to hear from. And I know I got a lot of questions for Coach Patterson. Hopefully he'll be able to answer a lot of your questions as well. We welcome former Iowa offensive coordinator and the winningest head coach in Western Illinois history, Coach Don Patterson, here to the show. Don, welcome. You're red. Looks like you've been in the sun.
Yep.
Supporting your Hawks. I appreciate that. I don't know where we start. I say that every time we're in this position. But I guess let's start with the obvious. Was it right or wrong to go for 2 when you're up 19-7 with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter? You tell me.
Well, my wife commented as soon as we scored to go up, what was the score at the time? 19-7, I guess. When it was obvious they were going for 2, I said, I don't know about that.
I agree.
There's an old adage, do not chase the points. You've heard that.
Yes.
There's really no way to know for sure how it's going to play out, but...
Well, no, Don, real quick, but I don't want to interrupt you. But first of all, 2 things. Can I get you to put your camera down just a little bit so I can get you a better picture? Second thing, you tell me if I'm wrong on this. You got 5 minutes left in the third. That's 20 minutes of game.
That's right.
That's at least 3 possessions for Iowa.
It's too early to know how it's going to play out. And that's why there's that adage, do not chase the points. Obviously, if we're getting into the late stages of the game and let's say we were up by 5 and it was late in the game, it's a no-brainer. You go for 2, right? There's a 6-point, if you kick the PAT, a touchdown and a PAT will beat you. Well, with 20 minutes left in the game, there's really no way to know how it's all going to play out. And I don't remember exactly what the 2-point play was, but let's just say I was underwhelmed with the play. At the end of that 2-point attempt, I didn't say, wow, that was a great 2-point play to use.
It didn't work, Don. It didn't work.
Right. Well, it appeared to be a little on the lame side, but I guess if it works, it doesn't really matter how lame it might appear to be. But it didn't work out well for us, and I remember thinking, oh boy, I hope that doesn't come back to bite us. And sure enough, it did.
So, can we talk a little bit about? I want to talk about first half red zone scoring because that's a disaster right now. I want to talk about the decision at the end to go for a Hail Mary with a guy who can't reach the end zone. And then I want to talk about Cade McNamara. Let's start with Cade, right? So you go second half. Cade looked pretty good in that first quarter. I think some would say he looked really good in the first quarter, Don. Although the run game led the charge, there's no question about it. Iowa in the first quarter, total on the ground. Let me get rush yards here. 7 rushes for 41 yards, really solid first quarter. But they also threw the ball for 72 yards. Cade was 8 of 11 through the air.
And somehow we finished with less than 100, right?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And we talk about first half, second half, but how about first quarter versus the other 3? Because for the rest of the game, like you said, Iowa Cade McNamara finished with under 100 yards. In the second quarter, Cade McNamara had just 8 passing yards. So what changed, Don? Just tell me what changed. We can go microcosm. We'll do that. We can go look at every little thing, but what changed?
Well, I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to tell sitting out in the stadium. You don't have the benefit of you have instant replay up to a point, but it's not as easy to see it and all that. It seemed to me like they settled in and didn't give up. It was just an odd game in a way. I looked at the stats, and as I suspected, tight ends hardly played any role at all in our pass offense. We targeted them a few times, but it wasn't productive. And I'm not blaming any particular person. It's just that I think we need to realize, let's give some credit to Iowa State. I think they have an above average secondary. I said that last Saturday night.
Yeah.
But they have an experienced secondary, and they don't make stupid mistakes. Incidentally, I don't know how, was it Noel that caught it, I think? The 75-yarder. I don't know how he got up on top of Wampa. I don't know what Wampa was doing.
What do you mean you don't know how he got on top of Wampa? Wampa was standing there flat-footed.
I know, yeah. I mean, I don't know what he saw. Was it even a play action? Was there a play action involved?
I don't know. I did go back.
All I
know is I don't think Wampa saw the field again after that, did he?
I don't know that he did.
So Entringer came in, and I don't think that was injury related.
It's a real head scratcher because, clearly there was no question who got beat on the play. It was clearly number one. You couldn't say, well, was it his fault or somebody else's? It was clearly his fault.
But this wasn't just about one play, right, Don? This was a methodical comeback when you're down. First of all, it should have been 21-0 at halftime. It was 13-0. But a methodical comeback in the sense of even at the last drive of the game, the 2 big pass plays. We can talk about the offense all day, but what happened on those 2 big pass plays one was, I think, maybe 10, 12 yards, and the other one was Noel getting free down the sideline. Why was Sebastian Castro matched up against Jalen Noel in that situation?
I didn't realize it was Castro.
It was Castro.
Yeah, I think we were playing 2-man, as I recall. Half coverage in the back end and 500-man. And Noel simply beat Castro off the ball. Of course, he's not used to being lined up like a cornerback either. I'm talking about up in the guy's face even. So I think the guy got a good release, got on top of him. Nice throw. And too many yards to even think about allowing at that point in the game. I fully didn't expect him to make the kick. I'll admit that. He missed one earlier. For what I knew, he certainly wasn't as good a place kicker as the one we have. But I give that young man credit. He banged it right through. And it was one of those games you've heard me say before, Corey. If you're the underdog, just keep hanging around, hanging around, hanging around. Be sure it's a one-score game. In this case, a 2-point game, and then you have a chance to win at the end. Honestly, let's back up a little bit. If we just can grind out one more first down, then they have no chance.
Yeah, let me just can I argue with something
Sure.
with you on this? This wasn't just hanging around. This is a comeback. You're up 13 points at halftime, and it should have been 21. And you could argue the game is basically over, up 21. I don't think Iowa State's coming back from 21-0 against this defense, but 13-0 is a totally different animal. So I don't know that I would say they just hung around. This wasn't like it wasn't like what Northern Illinois did with Notre Dame today. This was Iowa dominated that first half, even in spite of the passing yards, the lack of passing yards in the second quarter from Cade McNamara. Don, like everything from Iowa State didn't do jack squat. Iowa controlled the field. Iowa controlled special teams. The only thing Iowa didn't do in that first half was convert inside the 10.
Yeah, I will admit it was a little bit of a head scratcher. I thought down on the goal line, we got a little too cute. We had first and goal at the 3. My gosh. Let's run the ball into the end zone. I mean, they'd have to prove to me that we couldn't do it. And I just thought we didn't have great confidence that we could run it in. And I will admit that there are other tacklers near the ball, of course, when you get near the goal line. That's the bad news. Well, the good news is you only got to go 2 or 3 yards. So they better, if they're an extra tackler that's unblocked, better do a good job of standing up the ball carrier, because even if we fall forward, we may pick up all the yardage we need. So I was just surprised a little bit with our play calling, and then we had to settle for a field goal. And I just give Iowa State great credit for being resilient, much as we often are.
Yep.
I
got nothing. You know what? I'm not an Iowa State fan, and this loss sucks on so many levels, not just for me, but for Hawkeye fans everywhere. But I got a respect for how Iowa State played this game. It wasn't a dirty performance. It wasn't because of officiating. They just kept their composure, and I'm happy for Matt Campbell. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a good guy. I'm real happy for John Haycock. I'm really disappointed for Iowa's players. Bay Area Video Extreme says, can't believe Cade's QB rating was so low. A 66? Wow, not a Power 5 performance. Don, how would you rate Cade McNamara's day overall?
Well, I haven't studied it, of course, but I'd have to say it's a concern. The interception, to me, that was a poor decision. He rolled right, set up, and threw back left. Long throw. Pretty good coverage to begin with. Nice play for the interception. That was a good play on their part. But honestly, when you throw the ball back across the grain for that length, then there's a lot of things that can happen, and some of them are not good. Here's another one that was odd. Remember the deep throw to Gill that was broken up. If you go back and look, I'm just in the stadium watching the replay screen. It appears to me Cade never did do anything other than look left. And again, the free safety is the guy that broke the play up. If he'd have just done a better job with eye control and kept him away from the throw a little bit longer, he wouldn't have been there. So, that's on Cade. Or you could argue that's on the coach rather than Cade. But, coaches feel responsible when players don't do well, and so do players. And that's the way it should be. Should be a shared responsibility on the part of player and coach.
I want to run through a couple of notes here, Don, before we go to a quick commercial break. One being the red zone offense. So this is what I have written down second quarter. So missed opportunity inside the 5. They go 2 negative run plays in the second quarter. I think you alluded to that. And they're just unorthodox plays. There was another opportunity down there where Cade McNamara missed a wide open Jacob Gill in the corner of the end zone. Did you notice that? They pointed that out on CBS, but on third down, second quarter, third down, Don, inside the 5, I think it was a throw to, was it Lachey in the end zone?
Oh, and he was, and
Jacob
Gill was back on the left side, right?
Jacob, and I'm not gonna use the terminology that Coach Fry would have used, but Jacob Gill was wide open.
Without that other word in between.
Keep that there. Wide open. And
Yeah.
Cade never looked. And this is one of those games, Don, and we talk about the Cy-Hawk game. It always comes down to one or two plays, it seems like. But this really came down to one or two plays. And I say that because if they don't get that long completion to Jalen Knoll, they probably don't win. If they don't get the field goal from 54 yards, they don't win. If he hooks up, if Cade McNamara hooks up with Jacob Gill there, second quarter, wide open, if he just looks that direction, he's going to throw you could have made that throw, Don, in your 70s, and Iowa probably wins this game. If LaShawn Williams doesn't go out of bounds at the 3, get knocked down at the 3, I believe they win. Like, there's so many of those plays. I think I am concerned on a macro level because of the red zone inefficiency. And I think I'd be concerned even if Iowa had found a way to win. So besides, you said, kind of getting a little cute down there and complicating things when you're first and goal at the 3.
Yeah.
They were pretty good red zone last week. I'd have to go back and pull up their red zone trips, but I thought the red zone, I remember saying on this show, hey, the red zone offense looks pretty good. They didn't look good today, Don.
Right.
And I guess to piggyback on that, we see Cade McNamara's numbers. I was not calling for Brendan Sullivan during this game, but if someone did, I want to protect whoever it is that makes that statement. Like if somebody says, I think we should go with Brendan, let's give that person the benefit of the doubt that this is not a typical quarterback situation. This is not having Deacon Hill as your backup, having Alex Padilla, Deuce Hogan, Carson May. This guy in Brendan Sullivan has proven himself at Northwestern. Are you surprised that we have not seen him get a single meaningful snap through 2 games in spite of how close the battle was through fall camp? And it was close through fall camp.
Well, I wasn't surprised to not see him today. I was certainly surprised, as you know already, that we didn't see him last week. I would like to see him play more than just the last 2 minutes of the game.
Io Verla says, look at the bright side, everybody. We could have been Michigan today. The Wolverines got pantsed against Texas, but that's a really good Texas team, a Texas team that's poised for, well, they've got national championship hopes, but do appreciate that super chat, ma'am or sir. Jim, thank you for that as well. If there was a comment there, we did not get it. It did not go through, but do appreciate the donation. D. Rolling, upside, game saved me $2K from going to Indy. Let's go Hawks. I don't think this has any impact on them going to Indy, Don. This is a non-conference game, so I do appreciate the super chat, but this is a non-conference game. Lomansky, Coach, thanks for your time as always. Need to calm down. Corey and I lost the game or clones won it. I know what you're going to say, Don.
Well, I think both things happened. I thought Iowa State deserved to win the game, and frankly, we deserved to lose the game. So I don't know how you can assign more credit to one side or more blame to the other, but they won it, and we cooperated and managed to lose it.
Lomansky, thank you for the super chat. And again, as you see Cade McNamara's numbers, I want to ask you one more thing before we go into a quick 30-second breakdown. You weren't listening to the first hour of this show, but am I crazy to have been adamant at the end of this game that Iowa should have sent Drew Stevens onto the field for the final play of the game?
Maybe not crazy, but maybe you don't have the full appreciation of the effect of the wind at that point. It was
Okay.
still a little bit out of the northwest.
Okay.
I honestly, as strong a leg as he has,
So so it was he was going into the wind. I did that I was not aware of. I didn't
not,
see it.
well,
I didn't see the
not,
effect of the wind during the game. So I guess I didn't realize wind was impacting the game.
well, let's not forget that their kicker in the fourth quarter was with the wind, and he didn't have the reputation for having a big leg, and
True.
it comfortably went through from 54. Probably would have been good from what, 56 or 7?
So my question is, Drew Stevens, he makes 65 yarders in practice, but
Not in the wind.
okay. So my question is, would you have given what percentage chance would you have given him of making that from 65?
I know where you're going with this. Chances are slim, but are they worse than throwing up a
Exactly.
Hail Mary that won't reach the end zone?
That's what I'm saying. And I was not aware of the wind situation because I was not in the stadium and I didn't see that the wind.
Don't get me wrong, it was not a stiff wind, but any wind at all against you does cut into the length of the kick.
I wonder if they had gone the other direction, if this field had been flipped, if they would have sent Drew Stevens out there for a 65 yard.
What was our last yard line on the Hail Mary? What yard line were we on? I forget.
It would have been the 49.
49. So typically they back up 8 yards. So it would have actually been a 67-yard field goal.
Okay. All right.
They don't spot the ball at 7 anymore. They spot it at 8.
Okay.
You might argue, well, of course, to get it there, you got to kick the ball with a little lower trajectory. So that's all the more reason you need 8, not 7. 7's got a better chance of getting blocked. It was just, I made this comment to Lisa as the game wound down. I said, defense has to win it because our offense is incapable of doing so. If we had one more first down, when we possessed the ball, we could have ended the game even. But it was a lot to ask at that point because clearly we're not comfortable throwing the ball. And we do have the clock on our side. So clearly I think our coaches felt more comfortable. Let's punt the ball down the field and turn it over to our defense. And I think you could argue we didn't execute as well the second half on defense as we needed. We did give up a lot of yards. They outgained us by, I think, 40, 50 yards for the game. And then, sadly, I thought with so little time left, I think there was 40 seconds, as I recall. They put 2 seconds back on the clock. But I remember thinking, well, they're 80 yards away or whatever it was. So, and I think at that point they were out of timeouts. So I didn't give them much chance to even be in field goal range, and yet they managed to do it, managed to get there.